I'm 73 years old now, and I still think about the morning I walked past my father without saying goodbye. He was sitting in his chair by the window, reading the paper like he did every Sunday, and I was running late for a job interview I thought would change my life. I didn't know that would be the last time I'd see him alive. My name is Robert Chen, and if there's one thing I've learned in all these years, it's that we spend most of our lives preparing for moments that never come, while missing the ones happening right in front of us. When I was 24, I got that job I was rushing to. Corner office, by 32. Six-figure salary, by 35. I worked 70-hour weeks, and told myself I was building a legacy, that I was doing it for my family, for my future children, for some version of myself I'd meet decades down the road who would thank me for all the sacrifice. My wife Sarah used to leave little notes in my briefcase. Just simple things. Reminders that she loved me, that she missed me, that our son Danny had learned a new word or taken his first steps. I'd find them during lunch breaks and feel this quick flash of warmth, then fold them up and get back to the presentation or the merger or whatever crisis felt urgent that day. I kept telling myself I'd have time later. Time to be present. Time to really be a husband and a father. I had this picture in my head of some magical future where the work would ease up and I'd finally be able to relax into my life. That future never came. The work never eased up because I never let it. There was always another promotion to chase, another deal to close, another reason to stay late or come in early, or check my email at the dinner table. Sarah stopped leaving notes after a while. Danny stopped asking me to come to his baseball games. They didn't do it out of anger. They did it out of acceptance, which somehow hurt worse when I finally noticed. I remember the afternoon I came home early. Must have been when Danny was 15 or 16, and I walked into the kitchen to find Sarah teaching him how to tie a tie for some school dance. They were laughing together, and she was being patient with him in this way I'd forgotten she could be patient, and I realized I'd missed everything, not just the big moments, the birthdays and the graduations I'd shown up late to, but all the small ordinary moments that actually make up a life. The Sunday morning pancakes, the arguments about homework, the quiet evenings watching television together. I'd traded all of it for money I didn't need, and achievements that looked impressive on paper, but felt hollow in my chest. I retired at 65 thinking I'd finally have that time I'd been promising myself. But Danny was grown by then, living across the country with a family of his own. Sarah and I were polite strangers who'd forgotten how to talk about anything other than household logistics. We'd go to dinner and sit across from each other, searching for conversation topics like acquaintances on a first date. The saddest part was she'd tried. For years she'd tried to pull me back into our life, into our family, and I'd been too busy climbing some ladder I can't even remember the point of now. The second thing I wish I'd learned earlier is that your body keeps score even when your mind wants to push forward. I had my first heart attack at 58. Woke up in a hospital room with Sarah sitting beside the bed, and the look on her face wasn't fear or relief. It was resignation, like she'd been expecting this, like she'd watched me sprint toward this moment for decades, and knew there was nothing she could say to stop it. The doctors told me to reduce stress, change my diet, exercise, all the things you'd expect. I nodded and agreed and went back to work 3 weeks later because I didn't know who I was without it. Took another heart attack 5 years later to finally scare me into stopping, and by then I'd damaged more than just my heart. My knees are shot from never moving enough. My back aches from years hunched over a desk. I take 7 pills every morning for conditions I probably could have prevented if I'd just listened to what my body was trying to tell me all those years. Here's something nobody tells you when you're young and you feel invincible. You think you're making a trade. You think you're saying I'll sacrifice my health now for success, or I'll miss these moments now, but I'll make up for it later. But you're not trading anything. You're just losing. Those moments don't come back. That energy doesn't return. Your children don't stay young waiting for you to be ready to pay attention. I'd give every dollar I earned, every award I won, every ounce of professional respect I built up to go back and have dinner with my family on a random Tuesday in 1994. Just one normal dinner where I wasn't thinking about work, where I asked Danny about his day and actually listened to the answer, where I looked at Sarah and remembered why I fell in love with her instead of mentally rehearsing tomorrow's meeting. The third lesson took me until my 60s to understand, and it's that the people who love you don't want your success. They want your presence. Danny called me last Christmas, and we were making small talk the way we usually do. And out of nowhere he said, "Dad, do you remember that camping trip you promised me when I was 9? And my stomach just dropped because I didn't remember. I'd promised him so many things, so many trips and outings and special days that got postponed and rescheduled until they just faded away. He said, "I'm not trying to make you feel bad, I just think about it sometimes. I used to tell my friends at school my dad was taking me camping, and I'd describe the whole trip, where we'd go, what we'd do, like it was already planned, and then it just never happened." He wasn't angry. That's what broke me. He was just stating a fact, just letting me know that this thing I'd forgotten completely was something he'd carried for 40 years. I started crying right there on the phone, 70 years old and crying like a child. I told him I was sorry, that I'd been a terrible father, that I'd wasted everything that mattered. And you know what he said? He said, "You weren't terrible, Dad. You were just absent." And that's something I've had to sit with. That absence can be a form of cruelty, even when you don't mean it that way, even when you tell yourself you're doing it for good reasons. The fourth thing is that your parents won't be around as long as you think. I know everyone says this. It's such a cliché, but it's one of those truths that doesn't really land until it's too late. My father died of a stroke 2 days after I skipped saying goodbye to him. He was 71, which seemed ancient to me at the time, but seems young now that I'm 73. My mother made it to 86, but I didn't really know her, not as a person. I knew her as my mother, as someone who made sure I had clean clothes and did my homework, but I never asked her about her dreams or her regrets, or what her life was like before she had me. She died in a nursing home, and I visited twice a month, and we'd sit there making the same small talk over and over, and I didn't know how to bridge the gap between us. I didn't know how to ask the real questions, and now she's gone, and I never will. My wife Sarah's mother lived with us the last 3 years of her life. This was after Sarah and I had started trying to rebuild what we'd lost, trying to remember how to be married, and I watched Sarah care for her mother with such tenderness, such patience, and I realized I'd never seen my own mother as someone who needed that kind of care. I'd just thought of her as permanent, as someone who'd always be there in the background of my life. It's a special kind of arrogance, assuming the people who raised you will wait around forever while you get your priorities straight. The fifth lesson is about money, and it's not what you'd expect. I made a lot of money in my career, more than I needed, more than I could spend, and I thought that was the point. I thought financial security would give me peace of mind, would make me feel safe and successful and proud. But money is the strangest thing. It solves the problems you have until you have enough of it, and then it just sits there doing nothing while all your real problems go unsolved. I can afford the best health care in the world, but it can't undo the damage I did to my body. I can buy a big house, but it doesn't fill itself with family and laughter and life. I can travel anywhere, but I have to do it alone, or with a wife who's still deciding if she can forgive me for all the years I chose work over her. There's a number in your head when you're young. You think, if I can just make this much, if I can just save this much, then I'll be happy, then I'll be secure, then I'll relax. But that number keeps moving. It's always just a little bit more, just one more raise, one more investment, one more deal. I know people who died chasing that number. I know people who reached it and realized it meant nothing. The money I have now doesn't make me happy. What makes me happy is when Danny calls just to talk, or when Sarah laughs at something I say, or when I sit in my garden and watch the birds and feel the sun on my face. None of those things cost anything. None of them required 70-hour work weeks. They were available to me the entire time, and I was too busy accumulating wealth to notice. The sixth thing I learned too late is that your reputation matters less than you think. I spent decades building up this professional identity, this image of myself as competent and reliable and successful. I cared so much about what colleagues thought of me, what clients thought of me, what people in my industry thought of me. I lost sleep over bad reviews and critical feedback. I felt genuine pride when people spoke well of me at conferences or in meetings. And now I'm 73 and retired, and I can't remember the last time any of that mattered. The people I worked with have moved on. The company I helped build has been sold twice and barely resembles what it was. The projects I thought were so important have been forgotten or replaced. All that energy I spent managing my professional reputation, and it evaporated the moment I stepped away from it. You know what hasn't evaporated? The relationships I neglected, the trust I broke, the moments I missed. Those are permanent. Danny doesn't care that I was respected in my field. Sarah doesn't care that I won awards. What they care about is whether I was there, whether I showed up, whether I put them first. And the answer for most of our life together was no. That's the reputation that actually matters, and it's the one I failed to build. The seventh lesson is about forgiveness, both giving it and asking for it. I held on to grudges for years, decades, in some cases, colleagues who wronged me, friends who disappointed me, family members who said the wrong thing at the wrong time. I nursed those resentments like they were precious, like holding on to anger somehow protected me or proved I was right. It didn't do anything except make me bitter, make me smaller. I cut people out of my life over slights I can't even properly remember now. And what did it get me? Nothing. Just emptiness where relationships used to be. And asking for forgiveness, that's even harder. I've apologized to Sarah more times than I can count over the past few years, and sometimes she accepts it, and sometimes she just looks at me with this sadness in her eyes. I've apologized to Danny, to my sister who I didn't speak to for 15 years over something so stupid I'm embarrassed to even think about it. Some of those apologies were accepted, some weren't. Some people I hurt aren't around anymore to apologize to. But I've learned that you apologize anyway. Not because it fixes things, but because it's true. Because you owe people the acknowledgement that you hurt them, that you were wrong, that you see them now even if you didn't then. The eighth thing is that adventure doesn't wait for retirement. I had this whole list of places I wanted to go, things I wanted to do, experiences I wanted to have once I had time, once I retired, once I was free from work obligations. And then I retired, and my knees hurt, and my back hurt, and I got tired easily, and half the adventures I dreamed about weren't physically possible anymore. Sarah and I went to Italy last year, something we'd talked about doing for 40 years, and it was beautiful, but it wasn't what I'd imagined. I couldn't walk the hills of Tuscany. I couldn't stay out late exploring cities. We had to plan everything around my energy levels and my medications and my physical limitations. I kept thinking about what it would have been like to do this trip when we were 30, when we had the energy and the wonder and the time to really experience it. But I'd been too busy, too focused on building a future that I thought would be better than the present. Your life is happening now, not later, not once you achieve something or accumulate something or reach some magical point where you've earned the right to live it. Now, this moment, this day, and you can't get it back. I can't get back my 40s, my 50s, my 60s. They're gone. I lived through them, but I wasn't present for them. I was always thinking about the next thing, the next goal, the next milestone. I missed my own life while I was living it. The ninth lesson is that grief is the price of love, and it's worth paying. I was afraid of closeness for a long time, afraid of depending on people, afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of the pain that comes when you lose someone you love. So I kept people at arm's length. I told myself I was being strong, being independent, but I was just being scared. And what did that protection get me? It got me decades of loneliness. It got me a wife who I loved but didn't know how to be close to. It got me a son who felt like a stranger. Sarah's father died 3 years ago, and I watched her grieve with this intensity that I'd never let myself feel about anything. She cried, she raged, she sat with her sadness instead of trying to fix it or move past it. And then slowly she came back to herself, changed but whole, and I realized that her ability to grieve like that came from her ability to love like that. They're the same thing. You can't have one without the other. I'd been trying to protect myself from grief my entire life, and in doing so I'd protected myself from real love too, from real connection, from the kind of relationships that actually make life worth living. The 10th thing, and this is the one that I think about most now, is that you don't get to know which moments matter until they're gone. That morning I walked past my father. I thought it was just another Sunday, just another ordinary moment in a string of ordinary moments. I had no idea it was the last time. I had no idea that decades later I'd still be thinking about it, wishing I'd stopped, wishing I'd said something real instead of just rushing past. And that's true of so many moments. Danny's last Little League game before he decided he didn't like baseball anymore. The last time my mother called me just to chat before her mind started to go. The last spontaneous kiss Sarah gave me before I'd created so much distance between us that spontaneity felt impossible. These moments didn't announce themselves. They didn't come with signs saying, "Pay attention, this is important, this won't happen again." They just looked like regular life. So you have to treat every moment like it might be the one that matters. Every goodbye like it might be the last one. Every conversation like it might be the one you remember. Not in a morbid way, not in a way that makes you paranoid or anxious, but in a way that makes you present, in a way that makes you show up for your life, instead of sleepwalking through it while you wait for some better version to start. I'm 73 now, and I'm running out of time to fix the things I broke. Sarah and I are trying. We have dinner together every night and we're learning how to talk again, how to be gentle with each other. Danny calls more often, and sometimes we have real conversations, not just surface-level updates. I'm learning my grandchildren's names and interests, and I'm trying to be the grandfather I wasn't able to be as a father. It's not enough. It doesn't undo anything, but it's what I have. If you're younger than me, if you still have time, please don't make the deals I made. Don't tell yourself you'll be present later. Don't convince yourself that success is worth the cost of your relationships, your health, your actual lived experience of being alive. Don't wait until you're 73 and looking back at a life you barely participated in. The work will always be there. The emails will always need answering. There will always be another deadline, another crisis, another reason to put off the things that actually matter. But the people you love won't always be there. Your energy won't always be there. The moments happening right now won't wait for you to be ready for them. I thought I was building a legacy with my career. Turns out the only legacy that matters is the one you leave in people's hearts, in their memories of how you made them feel, in whether you showed up when they needed you. And that's the legacy I failed to build until it was almost too late. I'm trying to build it now, in whatever time I have left. But I'd give anything to go back and start earlier, to put down my briefcase and pick up my son, to turn off my phone and really listen to my wife, to sit with my father that Sunday morning and ask him about his life instead of rushing past him to chase something that didn't matter. You can't get the time back. Nobody can. But you can stop wasting the time you have left. You can make different choices starting today. You can call someone you love. You can be present for the ordinary moments. You can stop waiting for your life to start and realize it's been happening all along. That's what I wish I'd known before it was too late. That's what I hope you'll understand while there's still time to matter.